This is test J, the third logic game, the cruise ship one. We've got 7 stops on our voyage, week 1 through 7. And I'm not going to bother labeling 1 through 7 because I read from left to right. So this would normally be 1 and this would normally be 7. So I don't really need to label it. There's nothing weird going on here. It says that we can't go to Jamaica in week 4, so I wrote that down. It says we have to go to T in week 7, so I wrote that right into my 7 spots. I just went ahead and put T there in the 7th spot. We have a rule that says there are exactly 2 M's and there has to be at least 1 G in between. So I wrote that as M before G before M, M1 before G before M2. And I'm going to remember that there aren't any other M's. There are exactly 2 M's, and we have to put a G somewhere in between them. The next rule, the 4th rule, is the one that's most commonly misinterpreted. What people do if they really struggled, and if you really struggled on this game, I would bet that you might have just written this. That every time, that there's always a G before a J. And you might have inferred incorrectly that this G has to have a J with it. Now, it frequently is going to. The G that's between the M's, sure, that can be a GJ. But it doesn't have to be a GJ because the rule is conditional. The rule says G will be the destination the week preceding any voyage it makes to Jamaica. So Jamaica there is the sufficient condition. Anytime we have a J, that's what this arrow means, by the way, if, then. If we have a J, then we have to have a GJ. But it doesn't work the other way around. You don't have to put a J after every G. That's just not what the rule says. The rule says anytime you go to Jamaica, you have to have gone to G the previous week. But you can have a G without a J. You just can't have a J without a G. All right. Last rule says you can't have you can't go to the same place twice in a row. So I wrote that down as XX and then crossed it out. That just means that you can't, whatever. You can't go to the same place twice in a row. Okay, so we can make a couple more inferences here. Because of this rule, you can't go to the same destination twice in a row. Well, that means I can't go to T in week 6 because I know I go to T in week 7. I've also made this inference, which is a little bit of a harder inference. Probably half of you made this inference. J can't be the destination in week 1. Why? Well, because anytime you go to Jamaica, you have to go to G the previous week, and there is no previous week. Therefore, you can't go to Jamaica in week 1. It's fairly straightforward, to be honest. But, you have to be careful and take your time and try to make inferences like that. This one's pretty easy. I bet everyone saw that. This one's a little bit harder. And some of you probably also made an inference like, wait, what was it? Oh, you probably, this is a fake wrong inference. Some of you probably put, oh, you can't have G in week 6. If you thought you can't have G in week 6, that's because you thought that every G has to have a J after it, but that's just not how that rule works. You can have G's without J's. So as far as I know, you can have G in week 6. Be careful not to make inferences that are not justified. I could think about making worlds here. I think I'm going to try it today without making any worlds. If I was going to make worlds, I would be focused on the M before G before M, I think. Or I might be focused on where Jamaica goes. One interesting question is, can you have 2 Jamaicas? If you had 2 Jamaicas, you'd have to have 2 G's. And I know I have 2 M's. That's 6 things. Oh yeah, and I've got a spot for a T. So I'm not sure that I can have 2 J's, but I can't disprove the fact that, the idea that I would have 2 J's. Okay, so I'll just leave it. Let me see if I can answer the questions. Number 11, which one of the following is an acceptable schedule of the destinations in order from week 1 through 7? We call this a list question. These questions are really easy to do by process of elimination. All I have to do here is just take a rule and knock out answer choices. So Jamaica can't go in week 4, gets rid of D. Trinidad has to be the destination in week 7, gets rid of E. We have to go to M twice, and there has to be a G in between it. Gets rid of B because there's no G between the two M's. Anytime you have a J, you have to have a G right before it. Gets rid of C. Notice that C has Jamaica in week 1. Automatically violates that rule. You can't. There is no week 0, so we can't have G before J, so that gets rid of D. I've already narrowed it down to just one answer, A, but I have one more rule to test, and I would always test that rule to just make sure that I didn't, mess something up. No destination will be scheduled for consecutive weeks. I scan through A. Yep, there's nobody going in consecutive weeks. So I've eliminated B, C, D, and E. I've tested all the rules. A passes all those rules. So my answer for number 11 is A, and I'm 100% certain about it. I'm going to skip number 12 and go ahead to number 13. I have a preference for, after I do the list question, which was question number 11 here, it's the first question for most games. After I do that list question or acceptability question, I then am going to do the questions that start with if. So, and I'm going to keep a record of those questions, and they might help me with a more general, broad question like number 12. So number 13 says, if F goes to Trinidad, if we go to Trinidad in week 5. Okay, so this was my main diagram. Now I'm going to make a diagram that's special for question number 13. All of this still applies all the way down. Number 13 says, what happens if you go to Trinidad in week 5? Well, boy, I got to go to Jamaica somewhere, and I know it can't be in week 1, and I know that that's going to be a GJ. It's really looking like that J can only go here. Well, no, I guess, yeah, I can't go in week 4, so it can go here or here. I'm going to try it both ways. I think the J can go here or the J can go here. The reason why I'm focused on the J is that the J requires a G, and that's a big block, and when I put a T here, I start running out of space for where the big block can go. So maybe this works, although that seems a little dicey. This seems easier, because once I do this, then I look at the M before G before M rule, and I go, yeah, the only way we're going to be able to do it is to put an M here. But then if I put an M here or here, I know I have to put an M in one of those two spaces. It seems like I've got an extra G to play with. Not a T, because T can't go here or here. That would be 2 T's in a row. Not an M, because there's exactly 2 M's. Not a J, because J requires G in front of it. So this is going to be a G, and these guys are going to flip-flop. If I do it this way, there's only one way to do it, but it actually works. M, G, M satisfies all the rules. So notice, I'm doing a lot of work for number 13, but I'm going to answer it with certainty, and then I'm going to save these diagrams because these were working scenarios, and they might help me once I return to the more global questions like number 12. Anyway, number 13 says, which one of the following could be true? So either here or here, anything that could be true. Can we go to Trinidad in week 1? No. Can we go to Martinique in week 2? No. Can we go to G in week 3? No. Can we go to Martinique in week 4? Yeah, right here. I think that works. Can we go to Jamaica in week 6? Nope. So I did a lot of work here, but then I pretty confidently eliminated A, B, C, and E, making the answer for number 13, D. Number 14 is another if question. It says, if I go to G in 1 and J in 5, that should do an awful lot. G in 1 and J in 5. Remember, anytime you have a J, you have to have a GJ, so automatically we do that. Now, what else is going to happen? Well, I need the M before G before M. The only way to do that is to put an M right here. The other M goes here or here. And that can't be with a G because you end up with two G's in a row. It can't be with an M because I've already used both of my M's. It actually could be a J, huh? If I put J here and M here, that would work. Or it could easily be a T in either orientation. Which one of the following has to be true? Okay, so something that I already wrote down is going to be the answer. Jamaica in week 2 does not have to be true. Trinidad in week 2 does not have to be true. Both A and B could be true, but they don't have to be true. Martinique in week 3 could be true, but doesn't have to be true. G in 6 has to be false. M in 6, boom, has to be true. That's an inference that I made based on the starting conditions that they gave us in the question. The answer for number 14 is E. 15, another if question. If I go to G in 1 and T in 2, sorry, T in 2, oh, that is T in 7, and T in 2. Hopefully you guys can still see that. Yeah, okay. So right here, if I do all this, now let me think. I know I can't go to J in 4. I also know that I need a GJ somewhere. And I do think that's going to have to bracket the M's. I'm just kind of picturing it. You know, I still need M before G before M. And I need a J somewhere. And if I only have these 4 spots, there's only one way to do it. M, G, J, M. Which one of the following must be true? M3, yep, that's the answer. M4 must be false. M5 must be false. G3 must be false. G5 must be false. The answer for number 15 is A. 16 says, if I go to M in week 3, then what could I do in 4 and 5? I might try to get lucky here by using my previous diagrams. It's a could be true question, and I have a lot of different working scenarios. This isn't worlds. This isn't an exhaustive list of all of the scenarios, but it is a list of scenarios that work. And M3 happened here, could have happened here, and it's asking me about week 4 and 5. GT would work and GJ would work. If either of those are listed, that's going to be the answer. Yep, I did get lucky. Number 16 is A, because this scenario has M3, GT, 4th and 5th, and I know that scenario works. If that scenario didn't work, I would have crossed it out. So here's an example of how you can use your previous work sometimes to take shortcuts on the subsequent questions. Number 16 is A. Number 17, okay. I'm back to the global questions. So I'm going to do number 12 and number 17. Of course, you could do 17 and then 12. Doesn't really matter. Number 12. Which one of the following cannot be true ever? T6? Oh, shit. That's an easy. Wow. That's like a freebie. All you need is one rule there. No, you need 2 rules. You need the rule that T goes in 7. And you also need the rule that you can't have the same destination twice in a row. But that proves that T can't go in week 6. That is an inference that I made at the very beginning of the game. Number 12 is A. Number 17, which one of the following must always be true? So in all of my scenarios, and in any possible scenario, it always has to be true. Do I have to go to G in week 1 or week 2? I mean, I did in all of these scenarios, but do I always in every scenario? I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing why that would have to be true. I could make a scenario and try to prove it false. You know, it would be something like T, M. That's a good start right there. Like T, M, you know, you could even go T again, G, J, M. I think this works. And I did not have G in the first 2 weeks, so that conclusively eliminates A. In real life, I don't think I would have taken the time to conclusively eliminate A. Instead, I would have gone, well, I don't know, let me see if one of these other answers jumps out at me as an obvious must be true. But that's one way to disprove A if you want to be 100% sure. B says, I have to go to M in 2 or 3. Nope. This scenario right here, I did not have M in 2 or 3. This was a working scenario that conclusively eliminates B. At most 2 voyages to G. I don't think so. You know, I just did a scenario right here where I had 3 T's, and I don't think I would have a problem with 3 G's. Remember, G is the necessary condition for J. Anytime you have a J, you have to have a G. Sorry, yeah, anytime you have a J, you have to have a G. So 3 J's would be a problem, because 3 J's would mean 3 G's plus 2 M's, you're already out of spots. But 3 G's, I don't think would be a problem. Oh, and I just predicted the answer. Number 17, D, at most 2 voyages to Jamaica. I don't need to write anything down, but I can prove that via like just common sense logic. If I had 3 J's, then I'd have to have 3 G's to accompany those J's. And I have 2 M's for sure, and a G for sure. Add all that up and you got 9 spots, but the voyage is only 7 spots. So D is the answer, because if you had 3 J's, it would break the game. And that's the game.